Hello, you guys. Welcome to episode number 195 at Josie's Art School. And I'm so happy that you are here. Today, we are going to create a windmill sitting out on a beautiful setting. And I'm so happy that you're here to create with me. Now, if you've purchased one of my art kits, you will see the instructions inside your box kit, but you can also obviously follow along with me. On my board right here, I'm showing actually 4 different examples of how to create the windmill. And as you can see, they're pretty diverse. And so what I want to always remind you is that this is your creation, this is your drawing. So however you want to create it, that's how you should create it, okay? Now, if you have the art kit, you will have tempera paints in your box, your subscription box. These projects are made on 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper, so that's about a 5 by 7 size. I am going to be working on an 11 by 14 piece of paper. I'm going to be using watercolor paints, Crayola crayons, and of course my favorite, oil pastels, and as always, the Daler Roni brand. I believe all of these things I purchased at my local Michael's craft store. And you can find these things anywhere. At a lot of the Walmarts even have really great selections, high quality, actually, decent quality, I should say, of these types of materials. So make sure, and if you have anything handy that you want to create with today, colored pencils, Sharpies, markers, crayons, watercolor pencils, just gather them up and pause the video and then come on back and we will do this together. Okay, so as always, I want to talk a little bit about what my process is. I am going to be doing this on an 11.5 by 14 piece of paper. So as if you have the kit, you have an 8 by 10 canvas panel in your kit. You can use anything that you like, of course. I'm going to be doing it with the long side of my paper down because I want a larger scene that I want to create to kind of complement the windmill. But if you want to make the windmill your focus, you might want to do it in portrait mode. Okay, so let's get started. Take your pencil. I'm going to be using a Sharpie so that you can see it on the screen. I'm going to grid my paper so that I can kind of space exactly where I want each of the items in my drawing to go, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make a dash or a dotted line down the middle going both ways. And then from here, I'm going to actually start by creating the windmill. So for me, I'm going to start with the top of my windmill as a triangle. Now, you don't necessarily have to use a triangle. You could use a semicircle or some sort of shape that gives you just a base on the bottom that is a flat line. So again, you can create this how you want. I just want to keep it simple so that you can follow along with me, but anytime you feel inspired to do something else, go ahead and do that. All right, so here's the bottom half of my windmill. Again, I'm going to elongate those parallel lines. So it has like a widened base on the bottom. So it almost gives you the feel of like an arrow or a rocket ship. Okay. And from here, I'm going to start to add the propellers of the windmill. So the easiest way to start is just to put a circle here in the middle. And then from here, you can create the lines. And your windmill could seriously be as simple as that. You then get to decide how you want to create the shapes on something that's, kind of equivalent to a fan, right? So I'm going to do something rather simple. I'm going to make almost like the shape of a paper airplane. So I'm making a rectangle and then I'm slanting the line. And then I'm making on the other side a parallel rectangle line. And I'm going to do that on all 4 sides. So here's my rectangle. And then here's my line, like as if I were to make a triangle, and then I'm going to come all the way back, and then the same thing here. And you could do it a couple different ways. You could do two one way or two the other. It is totally up to you. All right, as always, when you are done creating just this first rough draft, what I would invite you to do is to take your piece of paper, pick it up, and put it in front of you and see if you like how it's come out. Or maybe you want to add a little more. Now for me, I'm using Sharpie, so this would be difficult, but I would then go back in and I would erase any lines that are overlapping so that it gives very clean lines. So then it moves the propellers to the front so you can see them as if they would be moving on their own, right? Okay, so once we have this settled, next I would say, look back at your paper and decide if you want to create, well, you want to create a horizon line, but where do you want to put it? So in this example right here, it was created in such a way that you could actually add some water, right? See that blue area here? And then there's a lot of emphasis on the clouds in the sky. Now these other ones are a little more stylized. So this one, the artist created all green, like a just a meadow, almost like if you've seen those windmills as you go to California. And then here, they've actually just got a bit more colorful in what they're creating. So you could decide which way you want to go with this. So for now, I'm going to make my horizon line here. And the horizon line just gives your eye a better sense of where you want your land space to be designated, and then where do you want the sky to be designated, okay? So once I have that there, I can then do something very similar that you see right here as I start to divide it out, okay? This drawing very much reminds me of another art lesson that's on my channel, inspired by Claude Monet. And we did a lot of different pattern making on that design. So you can go that route with this one, or you can wait and do that video at another time. But if you want to add in those lines here, then the invitation is to decide if you want to add patterns in all the different spaces. Now, if you do decide to do some sort of pattern work, you want to make sure not to make the shapes too small, right? So when you're drawing them in, you want to be mindful that you're going to have to go back and you're going to have to color all that in. What I find is my artists can sometimes get very inspired with all the shapes. And then when it's time to go back and color in all those shapes, suddenly we just color over everything. So kind of know within yourself how much, I guess, patience you're going to have with filling in all of these patterns, and make your pattern choices honestly. Okay, so from here, I could simply just make a one line shape. I could even do repeating patterns here. So I did squares here. Maybe I want to do squares here. And then I've done squares here. Here I've done just some squiggly lines. So maybe I want to do some here and then right here. And then here I did some swirls. So maybe I want to do some swirls here. So you do want to kind of pay attention to how your eye is taking in whatever it is you draw, so that it's not too chaotic. Yes, so even when there's a lot of pattern or a lot of color, you'll notice the most successful drawings have some sort of pattern within the pattern, right? Okay, so now here's just the basis of what we're creating, and now you get to decide what you'd like to put in the sky, right? So you can go a couple different ways. So like in this example, we have some, this has more of a sand look, and then there's the water, and then there's some fields going on here, and then right here we add some greenery, right? Now here we've got it very clear. Here's the greenery, here's the sky. In this one, we've got a lot of color going on here. And then up in the sky, we have birds, and we actually have a tree, and we have the sun. And then here, it looks like the sun is rising or setting. So you've got lots of ideas of what you want to do with this. I do like the idea of showing the sun as either rising or setting. So I'm going to go ahead and add that into mine. Now I'm going to be careful not to fill it with too much detail, because I always leave room to be inspired in the midst of my drawing. Has that ever happened to you? Where as you're drawing, you kind of get a sense of, oh, these colors are going together in such a way, and now I want to add this. So the way in which you give yourself space to do that is you leave some open spaces. Now it could be that at the end of all this, I'm just going to paint the sky blue, but again, this as an artist is your opportunity to give inspiration, I guess an invitation to come and join you in your process, okay? So this is basically what we have set as far as the drawing. And now you can go in and you can start adding color. Now, again, there's so many spaces that you can start with the color. So what I like to do is I like to start someplace, either a big focal point or someplace where I'm sure I already know what it is I want to do. So maybe for you, you already know how you want to fill the windmill with color. So you can go ahead and do that. For me, I'm going to go ahead and start with the sun. So I'm going to add some yellow in here. Now, here's one of those things that I don't have to do it too perfect, right? I can just get the color down and I can come back and fill it in later. But I just want to get a sense of here's where my focal point is, so that when I add in other colors, I know I still want to continue to make sure that this is the focal point, and the focal point just means where my eye goes first when I'm looking at my painting. So let's say, for example, you want your focal point to be the windmill. Well, that might be an opportunity for you to color the windmill with a very distinct color, and then everything else kind of complements that decision you've made to make that your focal point. Now, when you're looking at all of these examples here, I don't know if there's any one in particular where my eye is going right to the windmill, right? Except possibly here, because you see how light the color is in the sky and in the water. And so it kind of subtly brings you over to the windmill. So again, think about those things when you're painting, right? Or when you're filling it in with color with that, whatever you've decided to use. All right, so for me from here, I'm going to go ahead and start using my watercolor paint. And I'm just going to add a little color to the sun. Believe it or not, that is yellow. I mean, that is orange. Many of you know that I am an art teacher, and a lot of my supplies, I should say it this way, my supplies get a lot of use. I take a lot of them to school with me because we do have our basic supplies, but I really do love inviting the students to use all different types of materials. And in the one school that I've mentioned in the past, the principal was so kind and actually gave me a budget to get all of the supplies that I wanted, which was really very nice. But at the school I'm at now, we're kind of at the place where we're still experimenting with the idea of doing more art. So we haven't really gone in and got a ton of supplies yet, but I'm very hopeful. The kids definitely seem to be enjoying having art, and I'm always happy to see that. So I wonder if any of you have seen a windmill in real life, IRL. I mentioned the drive to California. There's a beautiful area where there's white windmills, and against the blue sky, they're just really amazing to see. All right, so I think I'm going to put some blue in the sky. But notice again how I'm not filling it with the blue yet, because perhaps I want to add some clouds like we see in this example here. Or maybe I want to add some birds. I'll decide that as I go along. As you can see, my backdrop has birds, so I could be inspired by that as well. All right, so what have you decided to do as far as your windmill? I have this gorgeous lavender and blue oil, or sorry, purple oil pastel. I think I'm gonna go a little bit crazy. I think I'm going to make my windmill purple. Wouldn't that be lovely to see? So again, not using too much. I'm keeping it very subtle because I might want to come in and add some more later. This is the fun part about using all different types of supplies, because if I really want to give my painting some movement, not only will I use my oil pastel, but I'll come in and add a little crayon or possibly add a little marker. If you have a Sharpie handy or a black pen, I'd encourage you to outline some of your areas on your painting so that it really stands out and your audience takes notice of what you've done. All right, let's put a little purple in there and see what happens. Oh, very nice. You see that right away. So I'm using watercolor paint, so that oil in the oil pastel is resisting my watercolor paint. But look at what beautiful effect it's giving the design. So if you've never done this before, I would encourage you to do that. All right. So from there, I think I'm going to actually go a little bit different and maybe add a little brown into the magenta. See what that looks like. Because again, you don't have to make it too matchy-matchy either, right? What I like about painting, especially when I set aside time to come and paint with you, is what I will always use this time to try different color choices that maybe I wouldn't normally try and see what I like. Maybe I might come up with a different favorite color. I will always say this, sometimes you make a choice and maybe on first glance you don't really like what it looks like. If you can dare to just leave it be and let it sit for a while and maybe come back a little later and let it dry, sometimes you might be surprised that you like it, because sometimes we are so hesitant with making changes on what we normally do in a drawing or a painting that we second guess it before we even can really let our mind see whether or not we like it or not. Do you know what I mean? So what happens is if somebody asks you a question and you're already answering the question without really thinking about it, I think sometimes that's the same thing we do with our art. We've done things before in a certain way, and maybe a year ago we never liked that color, or we never liked that, those two colors together. And so then of course this time when I do it, of course I won't like it this time either. And you'd be surprised how, this is another day, another time, you're a different person than you were the last time you made that choice, unless it was yesterday. But even then, we're changing so much every day in subtle ways and in big ways. You just never know, And let's also think about this. This might be something you're creating to give as a gift to someone. Have you ever thought to give your paintings away as a gift? I know when I'm in the classroom, lots of kids give me their paintings as gifts, which is so lovely. But I've even done it as an adult. I've given my paintings away. I remember I had a friend who was going through surgery, and her favorite, it was right around Easter time, and that was her favorite because her and her dad had made a lot of memories around Easter. traditions, and I painted a lily for her. And it was one of those things, as I was getting ready to give it to her, I felt very shy, like, was I kind of like copping out, not buying her a traditional gift? And she really loved it. And so that's always reminded me, just because you are creative, not everybody like takes the time to sit down and create something, and something that comes from your own hand is really a very lovely gift. So just keep that in mind. Well, as you can hear, it's trash day over here in my neck of the woods. All right, so I am starting to now go into the pattern area of my work in the landscape. And I'm trying to mix it up a little bit, so I'm not really overthinking what colors I'm choosing. Just making the choices, putting it on the paper, even as I pick this one particular color, just depending on how much I put on the brush. I like it, I don't like it. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to keep going with it and challenging myself. So I invite you to do the same. So I mentioned to you as we started this video that I do have art kits, and I offer them over on my website. You can find it in the comments or in the description of this video. And you can get a set of 3 paintings, or I should say a kit, where you have all the materials to make 3 paintings. And if you brought the kit, there's also, you come back to my YouTube channel and I walk you through how to paint it. But also, if you don't choose to do that, inside the kit, you actually have an set of instructions on how to create this. You get the examples of whatever it is that we're painting, and you get enough paint and paintbrushes and canvas to do 3 paintings on your own. So it's kind of nice to have it all in one like that. I also offer sewing kits for you to try, either hand sewing or machine sewing. You could do pillows, you could do something to put in a frame. You can also sew your own monster or bunny ragdoll. So lots of opportunities for you to be creative, for sure. All right, so here I've done the crux of this in watercolor paint. I think now I want to switch over to using my crayon. So remember how I started up here and I added my oil pastel. I want to take a different shade of blue. My crayon, this one is turquoise blue, and add that in and see how those blend together. Especially now that the windmill is starting to dry. I actually am really very pleased with how my windmill looks. And I hope you feel the same about yours. So I'm kind of going in different directions. Again, I like that feel of texture, haha, no pun intended, in the sky by going one direction and then going another direction. I might still add some clouds, but I might just do it over the top, just so it has you can sense that the clouds are there, even if you don't necessarily catch it with your eye. So I think I'm going to see if I have a white crayon. Oh, I have a white oil pastel. So I'm going to add that in just to soften up the blue, but also get a sense that there are clouds in the sky. Okay. All right, from there, I think I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to the sun, some watercolor yellow. Ooh. Let's see. That is not coming out so well. Well, that yellow is not showing up as well as I thought it would. We'll see how that looks when it dries. All right, so let's go ahead and leave that for now. I want to add a little bit more oil pastel. Oh, this is a deep blue. I don't think I've used it before, so I was kind of curious of what color it was going to be. And again, as you noticed, I'm still leaving a little bit of white showing. This is something, I've used this term, I don't know if everybody uses this term, but I like to let my colors breathe. And basically what that means is sometimes you'll go in and you will make sure every single part of the white is completely painted over or colored over. And I really do like the look of a painting that is a little more what you would call loose. And so I'm not so sad about having some of the white showing. I'm okay about letting it overlap a little bit because that's creating its own pattern. All right, we're just about done here. All right, I think maybe what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a little black and maybe just add some black in there. Just to kind of ground it a little bit. Sometimes too much color can be too much color. So here's kind of a rule if you've not heard this before. You can put as many colors in your painting as you want to, but you kind of need something to help your eyes, I guess you would say, let them rest a little bit. And so that's what like black does, white does that. I guess gray can do that on some level, but not so much. It's just basically that classic color kind of just helps, you know, just bring everything together. So it's kind of like bringing some cohesion. So I think I'm even going to add a little bit of it to the sun here. Like, I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see how this dries, you guys. I think this is a good choice. We'll find out when it dries. Okay, I'm going a little bit over. So I might even do the horizon line like that. So again, I try to get very brave. I don't want it to be the same thing every time. Sometimes if you see my paintings and you're like, oh, that seems very simple. And I know, I think I have had the privilege of teaching both adults and children, and adults get overwhelmed just as much as children do. And what I hope and my intention is by creating this channel is if I give you an idea of something that seems fairly basic, you can kind of relax the idea of being perfect and just enjoy having some time being creative. All right, you guys, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I overdid that. Okay, let me maybe add some of that into the windmill as well. See if that will work. All right, well, that is my painting. We'll see how it looks once it dries. I'm going to follow my own advice on this one, right? All right, you guys. Well, thanks so much for stopping by. Make sure and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. I do at least 2 and sometimes 3 videos every single week. I have over 195 art lessons on this channel. And please like, subscribe, share with a friend. Check out my art kits. Check out my sewing kits. And I also sell crowns. All right, my friends. See you soon. Bye.